Hi, I'm Andrea Blumberg. I am the Executive Director of Bet Shalom, and if you are joining us right now, you are part of the history of Bet Shalom and a part of our family of friends.
Hello, I'm Dick McNeil, and I'm the president of Bet Shalom for last year and this year. And I'd like to welcome you to this video, which will give you a chance to learn something about Bet Shalom's past, where we are now, and perhaps see something about where our future lies that you might want to be a part of, and celebrate the next 25 years. Thanks very much.
This is the preamble to the bylaws, and it had nothing to do with writing the bylaws. It started when we started Bet Shalom in December, when the four couples met and decided to try and form a synagogue. We were four couples who weren't good friends, didn't really know one another, but we all belonged to Temple Israel, and we wanted to start a new synagogue. And I'm a writer, and we decided to have meetings and see who else was interested in starting this. And I sat down and wrote a speech. And I started the speech with, "It will be a place that will be a family of friends." And that phrase I'd actually used at my oldest son's bar mitzvah to talk about being immigrants. We didn't have family, so our friends became our family. And I said at that time, we are a family of friends. And after we had written the bylaws, we had formed the congregation, we had elected the first president, who was John, the board of trustees. We wrote the bylaws, and we were sitting at a meeting talking about the bylaws and passing them, and Ben Smith said, "I think we should include your poem," he called it. And I said, "Oh, yeah, that's okay, let's do that." So that's how it became the preamble. And that's where it will, a family of friends comes from. It will be a place that will be a family of friends. It will be a place where you will feel a sense of belonging, whether you are an adult or a child, young or old. It will be a place where adults and children will learn together. It will be a place where nobody will be lost in the shuffle of numbers. It will be a place where our children will learn to know and understand other lifestyles and values as well as they understand their own. It will be a place where each of us feels we belong, where people care about what we value, what we say, and how we feel. It will be a place of involvement, from the rituals on the pulpit to the participation in services to the dishes in the kitchen. It will be a place where quality is stressed. It will be a place where we will laugh, cry, love, and grieve as we practice our Judaism together.
For a very special occasion, and that's to celebrate Bet Shalom's 25th anniversary. Bet Shalom, I think, and I think a lot of us think, is on a mission from God, literally. And that mission, which is our mission, is to help the Jewish people survive and prosper in Minnesota in the 21st century. And that's really an awesome statement, I think. Jewish survival and prosperity in Minnesota in the 21st century. It sounds exotic, it sounds heroic, it sounds important, and it sounds like fun. And it's all of those things. And that's why we're here. A few blocks from here, 150 years ago, is where the city of Minneapolis got started. And that was because Nicollet Island made it a great place to bridge the Mississippi River. Now our job, and Bet Shalom's job, is to also be a bridge from the Jewish past to the Jewish future in Minnesota. And for Bet Shalom, the JCC, and then 9th Avenue in Hopkins, and then Orchard Road in Minnetonka, have been great places for us to build a bridge. And that bridge really is us. We're the stones in that bridge, and not just a few blockheads among us. All of us, every one of us. For people in Minnesota who are trying to decide, do I want my family to be Jewish? Do I want to express being Jewish? Do I want my kids to be Jewish? Do I want to have a place in the Jewish community? Some of those people asking those questions are going to say to themselves, yeah, I think I'll check out an Orthodox shul. And that's great. But many more of those people, I think, are going to say to themselves, I think I should check out Bet Shalom. And they have. And that's why in the last 25 years, we've grown from a congregation or a group of 4 to, as of last Thursday's board meeting, 803 families. That is a tremendous accomplishment. We have our problems, we have our challenges, but we've accomplished a tremendous amount in the past 25 years, and we have a lot to celebrate tonight. So let's get underway, and I'd like to call on Sarah to lead us in the Motzi. Sarah, right there.
Let's all join together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. B'te'avon.
We have been celebrating our 25th anniversary in many ways and will for the next 2 weeks. And at each of these events, services on Friday, next week at our Scholar in Residence, 2 weeks at Mitzvah Day, we will do what Jews do at such events. We'll recite the Shehechianu, which thanks God for the moment that we have reached, the important accomplishments as we look to the future. And I think that it is appropriate even tonight to recite a Shehechianu, a night of fun and laughter. For after all, Zeh hayom asa Adonai, Nagila v'nismecha bo. In the Bible it says, this is the day that God has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. From the time of the ancient psalmist who wrote, Ivdu et Adonai b'simcha, serve God with laughter and joy and happiness, to the present day when our Israeli brothers and sisters in the midst of the lives that they face wish each other ta'aseh chayim, make life fun, they say to people, of all the things they could say. And we at Bet Shalom strive to include laughter and humor in almost everything we do. So please join me as we say the Shehechianu. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. We thank you, O God, Lord, ruler of the universe, for giving us life and sustaining us, and for enabling us to reach this momentous occasion. Now, ladies and gentlemen, David Brenner.
Bet Shalom from the very beginning, which didn't have a building, was all about the people. It was all about the activities. It was all about the things that we do inside and outside the building. And above the ark it says, Da lifnei mi ata omed, know before whom you stand. And we think that when we're in the sanctuary, we're standing before God and our people. There are so many starting points and genesis points, which I think is marvelous. I want everyone to feel as if they're part of something new, of something, of new creation. And you know, our prayer book says, every day we thank God for creating the world anew. When the sun rises every day, it's as if it's a new creation. And I think that's a wonderful idea for us to keep in mind, that Bet Shalom has had many new beginnings.
Knowing what I know today, we were absolutely mashuggy. To think that here we are in a community which a synagogue had not been started in almost 50 years, that we were going to start a synagogue from scratch was such a far-fetched idea that if we had known what we know today, we probably would never have done it.
But in the initial stages, it was the four couples, and we kind of sat down together and came up with this crazy idea of starting a new synagogue.
We decided to run an ad in the Jewish world, and we were going to call ourselves. We didn't want to say we're starting a new synagogue, and I think I may have called it Jewish Family Life. And come meet with us.
We were careful to offer it as an alternative, and we were very surprised by the turnout.
You know, it was like tapping a vein that was there, and people were showing their interest in this crazy idea.
It was very exciting to see the enthusiasm. But my memory is that initial enthusiasm didn't form a groundswell of support, and it came back then to a small nucleus of families.
There were two things that were very clear. We knew we wanted it to be a congregation, a synagogue, a temple, not a chavurah.
We had to find a way, and then lo and behold, you talk about being beshert. We are at a meeting at the Lonstein's house, and we're talking to one of the new members. One of the new members are sitting around the table, and they're sitting there talking. We're saying, we've got to get recognized. We've got to get the union to agree that we can be sanctioned and agreed upon that we're going to be a congregation in order for us to hire a rabbi. And she says, well, that's not a problem. And I looked at her, I said, well, what is your name, young lady? And I said, my name is Barbara Hanovich. And I said, really? Well, why is it not a problem? Well, my mother's on the board. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I bet. She says, can I use your phone? She goes and makes a long-distance phone call to Betty Feder in Fargo. And sure enough, 24 hours later, Rabbi Alan Bregman flies in from Chicago. After his conversation with Stanley Dreyfus in New York, and the Bet Shalom group was accepted. And they gave us the green light to interview potential candidates for rabbis.
A couple weeks later, I got a call from some of the people here. There were about 30 families at the time. And they said, you know, we had a meeting, Rabbi Cohen, and we sat down and we listed all the things we were looking for in a rabbi at our stage, just starting out. And then the next day we got your resume from the CCAR, and you know, they looked exactly the same.
It was so creative. It was such a feeling of pleasure and exhaustion and joy. And we go to services and we turn to one another, and we turn to Yale and Diane, and we say, you know, would you believe it? I mean, 25 years, would you believe it?
The most common thread that is throughout all of this is Rabbi Cohen's leadership his own personal development, his amazing skills on so many different levels that have encouraged and nurtured and led us to where we are today.
No matter what room you walk out of in this building, whether it be an office, a classroom, you see the walls of the sanctuary translucent, and you can see the light coming through from the other side, both figuratively and literally. But Bet Shalom has never been about a building. But once we're inside, we understand that Bet Shalom from the very beginning, which didn't have a building, was all about the people. It was all about the activities. It was all about the things that we do inside and outside the building.
I think it has fulfilled its preamble, that it is a place where everybody feels a part of and can feel a part of if they want to.
It was a very interesting experience, probably one that very few Jews, for sure in this community, ever had.
Well, I still have a tremendous amount of pride in the early temple and the early families, and you know, I can't say that any of the people at that point in time had a vision that what we were doing would become anything like what it is today. But what we were looking for was a more personal, a more personal and private and friendly experience. That was what that small group of people tried to engender. And I see that attempt still occurring at Bet Shalom, that same family feeling.
As Rabbi Cohn says, we try to be a small congregation and feel like a small congregation even though we know we're not anymore. But we try to have that feeling that everybody knows each other and that it's warm and welcoming even if you don't know somebody's name. So those are things that I think we can trace back to the beginning.
When you see this large room with the whole congregation and just looking around and saying, wow, look what we've done.